So now we are going to start today one of the very important chapter of financial relationship or financial strategy. Strategy we are going to use. This is a OTC product, over the counter product, means not made for trading, not for exchange purposes. It is made for using in the financial exercises between two parties. It started in 1980s between IBM and World Bank, and then continued with, and basically lot of borrowings and lendings with arranged and facilitated through financial swaps, especially in the field of international transactions, international borrowings and lendings. We will go with basic understanding of financial swaps. Then we will try to cover how swap deals are made. Once swap deals has been identified as deals are made, benefits have been made. After that, we will be going some more information, theoretical information related to financial swaps, and I will cover the part. This is the last one. That is the last part of it. No, not necessarily. Because some more items are there. Like a good number of things are there. Pardon? But some other aspects are also there. And so many other dimensions are used. We will cover all those things. So, we have used Sanskrit to say yes to a general exchange procedures will be covered by that. So, major forward considerations, futures we have discussed, and then options also we have discussed, and then finally we are discussing financial swaps. Interestingly, financial swap is easier to understand compared to risk free. Okay, so it's one of I normally consider it one of the most questions where one can answer it comfortably. So what is financial swaps? Understand it. Financial swaps. Swaps means exchange. The basic tenets are there. It is a transaction between two parties, A and B. Two parties are there. And how the two parties are going to exchange? Question is why they will exchange? So A has got certain needs and certain availability. B also has got need and B also has got availability. Whatever available is there to A is not suiting to A. And whatever available to B is not suiting to B. So what is happening that A and B come together and exchange with their goods. They exchange it. And that exchange is called swap. Swap is normal English word. And we all know that. India and we want to borrow in USA. But borrowing of A in India is not that favorable the way borrowing of B in India is. We can borrow in India more comfortably, more cheaply compared to A borrowing in India. And vice versa is true. B borrowing in USA is more tough or of a higher rate compared to A borrowing in USA. Now, if we come together and say that here A you borrow in USA and B borrowed in India and finally they exchange to each other. Finally they exchange to each other, then in that case it is going to be swaps. Right? It might this is one situation where they have the relative strength in different markets, but they need in another market. Right? It might be possible. Suppose A has got better credit worthiness. A can have better borrowing in you as well as in I compared to B. Means A has got relative advantage in both the markets compared to B. There is a second condition also. First condition had one party had advantage in another market, another party had advantage in another market, this crossing and ultimately you win. Whereas it is not the second case. Second case, one party has advantage in both the markets. And so if I'm putting A is having advantage in market I, A has got advantage in market U, still if they go for financial swaps, they may have advantage in both. That would be the second. That would be third condition also. Whether advantage is there or not, preference is there. There could be possibility that A is having a different liking, B has got a different liking, but situation is there that they are not getting there. So then in that case, they can twist cross each other. For example, again in the case of borrowing, suppose A wants only on the floating rate, B wants on the fixed rate, but B is getting favorably in the floating rate, A is getting favorably in the fixed rate. They can cross each other. And that crossing will help fill the place of things. Right? How to really measure it? How to make it? What is the empirical implications of this entire transaction? How it is going to work? So let's understand it. Suppose A means in India and borrowing rate is say for A it is 10%. Whereas A in USA can borrow at the rate of say 4%. Right? B in USA can borrow at the rate of 5% and B in India can borrow at the rate of say 9%. Now what happens? A needs where? A needs in India. Okay. B needs in USA. This is original. Right. A needs in India. B needs in USA. That is what I have already given the subscript. Now, if you look into what is the three steps involved in it, simple three steps. First is that first step is check the look into that. If they are not having tracks, then what kind of cost will they be there? Combining the total is combined cost of the two countries. So if swap is not there, then what A is looking for? A is looking for what? Tell me. A is looking for which market? This package is A. A is looking for which market? Indian market. And if A borrows in India, what is going to be the cost? 10%. Very good. Very easy subject. So please participate. A is going to have 10%. B is looking for USA. It is going how much? What is the total cost? 15%. Means if they do their own borrowings, if they continue with their own way, it is going to be 15%. Right? Now benefit will be there. Only when after starting cost will be less than 15%. If we have to cross check whether financial swaps is feasible or not, and what is the meaning of feasibility of financial swaps? There should be benefit out of it. Whether benefit is originating at one end or both the parties, there are benefit should be there. And what is the number of benefit? If without swap, combined cost is going to be 15%. If it is less than 15%, even 0.1% less, there is no benefit. If you exchange and ultimately you are able to reduce your respective costs, it is better. Is that clear? So that is the first step. We used and we found that total cost without swap is going to be 15%. Now look into with swap, how much is going to be the cost? With swap, what is going to be the cost? So instead of borrowing in India, which A means A will borrow in USA. So when A will borrow in USA, cost of borrowing will be 4%. And B borrow in India. Clear? B borrows in India. So B's cost will be 9%. Okay? 9%. Leading to the combined cost is 11%. Interestingly, you find out that the benefit is huge. If they exchange with each other, benefit is going to be 2%. Instead of A borrowing what they need, he borrow where it is preferable. And then hand over it to B. B borrows in its own preferred form and hand over to A in this process that is swaps. They have a 2% benefit. Share the benefit between two. What is the net swap benefits? What are swap benefits? Swap benefit will be, or actually benefit, instead of that word used in the text is called gain. Swap gain is going to be 15% minus 30% is equal to 2%. This is going to be the case. Are you getting how it is going to be? So 2% benefit will be there. Now here a question arises. If this benefit is going to be, say, if this is the benefit which is there, how it has to be distributed between two parties? If it is predefined and benefit distribution is going to be set, then do it as per the defined principle. Suppose it is said that A will take 60% of benefit and B will take 40% of benefit.
Then in that case, out of 2%, 1.2% gain will be there to A and 0.8% gain will be there to B. If question is silent on that, there is no information related to proportionate distribution of the gain among the parties, then in that case it will be equal distribution between two parties. And that this 2% into 1% and 1% to both the parties. So what is going to be the effective borrowing cost after financial swaps to respective party is, what was the cost to A without that? 10%. So A's cost will be 10% minus 1%, that is 9% will be the cost to A, and similarly B's cost will be 5% minus 1% is 4%. Both will be in benefit. Both will be in benefit. And there will be, this is what you have to calculate, and there will be a flow chart in which A will be there, B will be there, A and B will have some exchange. A will borrow in US market at the rate of 4%, B will borrow in Indian market at the rate of 9%. Finally, A, this is what the borrowing will be there. There will be exchange between two parties. Various way to show that exchange, but when you are showing it that exchange, make sure that whatever the post swap final cost is there, that should be ultimately get reflected. How it is going to get reflected? A's cost has to be 9%. A is already paying 4%. A receives 5% from B. The final cost is over. So you just simply, I write in one side, nothing is paid by A, rather B is paying 5%, how much A's cost has to be there? 9%. So it is not here. It is this way. A pays 4% to market, 5% to B. Total cost of A is going to be how much? 9%. B pays to market 9%, receives 5% from A. What is the effective cost to B? 4%. And that is what it has to be set. This is the cost has to be there. So A and B, this exchange has been shown. Any way you can show here, only one thing you have to make sure that your flow chart should show your complete equivalence. Complete equivalence has to be there. You balance one, second will be automatically get balanced. Right? Move from any side, you will get balanced. So this is what a financial swap is going to get created. I hope it is easy. It is not tough task. It's very easy task. Now, once it has been done, a question arises, how A and B will come together? How they will know that, yes, they have to exchange. Suppose A is an American company interested to invest in India. Let's G of USA want to invest in India. B is a Bharatiya company interested to invest in USA. This is the point, this is the way it has to be. Now a question arises, a American company can borrow in India and invest in India. American company can borrow in USA and invest in India. B, a Bharatiya company, maybe Infosys, maybe Tata, anyone, can borrow in India or can borrow in USA. And respective borrowing is there. A being American company, borrowing in America is cheaper for them compared to Indian borrowing in America, and vice versa is true. That's the way it has been. That's what I am trying to give you now, nomenclature. Any company, it may be GE, it may be IBM, it may be Infosys, it may be Asian Paint, anyone can go and invest outside any country, and that borrowing has to be there. Even it may be country itself related to project, corporate for project, that exercise could be set. What is done here is they come together and do this exercise, and very much officially possible, and that could be done. But let's understand here one more important part, little more complication, and in that complication it comes that suppose A and B doesn't know each other. They don't have any idea where they will be coming up, where they will be using. They don't have any idea. Then what will be done? Then in that case, there has to be some facilitator, some institution who will come into the picture, and that is called swap banks. That is called swap banks. How swap banks will be working? Let's understand here. So A and B is actually connecting to a swap bank. A doesn't know that who is coming in USA, with whom it could be possible. B is also not knowing who is coming in India to invest, where this deal could be possible, where it is feasible. So they both approach to a bank, swap bank, any bank, say bank is C, called say Citibank, present in India as well as present in USA. Both the party comes to Citibank and Citibank says, fine, I will make the deal possible. It could be there. That has to be used. And suppose the same deal is struck, but the facilitator is Citibank C. Then what to do? How it is going to be set? When Citibank is going to take, nothing is free. They will charge for it. Say 40% of the benefit, or say 20% of the benefit will be taken by the Citibank. Any of the set ratio. Audio? Not good. Okay. So, if suppose it is 20%, 20% is taken, then in that case, how this deal will be made? 20% of what? What is the benefit? Benefit is 2%. 20% of 2% is how much? 0.4? 0.4 will be taken by the Citibank. Swap bank will get benefit out of it, bringing the two together. Right? How much is the residual benefit? 1.6. In the absence of information, 0.8, 0.8 will be the both the parties, has to be there. So what you have to do, in between, you make here that which bank is there, whatever bank is taking, that bank's view has to be counted. And here, in between, we will put a bank, say C, where A is going to give, say, 5.2%, or let's consider how the value will be counted. B's cost will be not now 1%, rather it will be 0.8, so it will be 9.2. Similarly here 0.8, so it will become 4.2 is going to be the cost, right? So it could be possible that A will be giving it to 5.2. So 4% here, 5.2 you give, what is going to be the total cost of A? 9.2. That is what A's cost had to be, 9.2. And now what you do, how much C is looking for? How much C is looking for? 0.4. Let's see, C holds 0.4 and passes only 4.8% to B. Look into what is going to be the cost of B. 4.8. 4.2. 4.8 is already passed. So bank is receiving 5.2 and bank is passing on 4.8. Bank is withholding 0.4. बैंक का काम हो गया. A 4% plus 5.2%, 9.2%. B, it's a 4.8 received, 9 is paid, net effect is 4.2. Everyone is balanced. I can change the flow also. I can make any flow anyway. It's not necessary that only A will be paying to bank and it is going to be counted. Doesn't make any difference who pays how much. But practically it could be like B has also approached to bank, A also has approached to bank, so 0.2 is taken from both the parties. So you can simply create, simple way of making a flow chart is A's cost is going to be 4%, right? See, I am giving a without using too much of the complexities, how you are going to use it. A cost is going to be how much? 9.2. So ask the A to pay 9.2. Yes or not? Ask the A to pay 9.2%. So A has paid 9.2%. What was the charge of A? Then in that case, A is paying to 4% in the market. So make sure that A receives 4%. A का कॉस्ट कितना है? A का 9.2, राइट? पोस्ट स्वैप, जब स्वैप हो चुका है, A का कॉस्ट 9.2 है, तो 9.2 ही तो होना चाहिए, चाहे जिधर से घुमा के छूना है आप छू लो. 9.2 से ज्यादा कॉस्ट नहीं होना चाहिए, राइट? अब 9.2 A को मैंने A को कहा कि आप 9.2 दे दो, ये आपका कॉस्ट है, और A मार्केट से बोरो कर रहा है, उसको वो 4% दे रहा है, क्योंकि बोरो तो A ने किया तो देगा तो A ही. तो अगर इसका 4% इसको वापस मिल जाता तो A का नेट इफेक्टिव कॉस्ट कितना बन जाता है? नहीं, 9.2 दे रहा है और ये 4%, तो 4% इधर दिया, 4% मिल गया, तो 4% कैंसिल हो गया, तो इफेक्टिव कॉस्ट कितना हो गया? 9.2. इज इट क्लियर? आप जहां 4 देते हो, 4 आपको मिल जाता है और आप 9.2 दे रहे हो. क्लियर? ए बैलेंस्ड हो गया, ए बैलेंस्ड हो गया. अब आप सी की बात करो. सी इज हु? स्वैप बैंक. उसको कितना चाहिए? 0.4. मान लो 0.2 दोनों से ले रहा है, तो ये इससे 0.2 ले रहा है, तो ये 9.2 मिला, 9 आगे कर दिया, और इसको 4.2 मिला होगा, तभी तो ये 4% आगे करेगा. यस और नॉट? यहां 9.2 मिल रहा है, 9 आगे किया, 0.2 रोक लिया. यहां 4 आगे कर रहा है बैंक, तो इसका मतलब 4.2 मिल रहा होगा इसको, तो 4.2 मिलेगा, तो 4.2 इसको क्या करेगा? ये इस डायरेक्शन में है. क्लियर? तो अगर 4.2 इधर मिलके 4 चला गया, अब आप देखो बी अपने आप ऑटोमेटिकली बैलेंस हो गया. B is already balanced. We don't require to balance the B. When two parties are there, then in that case, balance one party, other will be automatically balanced. If three parties are there, balance two parties, third will be automatically balanced. Third is the residual. It will be balanced. And thus the transaction has been made. So whether it is one party or two parties, sometimes three party swaps are also there. A, B, C, three parties are there, and then bank is there in between. And there is a trigonal covered swapping takes place. But somehow you don't require to go through to that extent. You require to only have a swapping between two parties, and bank will be in between to ultimately take care of that. Often as a swap is going to take place. Okay. So I am simply recapping what I have already discussed till time in 2 minutes of time. Financial swap is the exchange of financial products. Especially we are going to discuss that borrowings by one party in one environment, another party in another environment, if they exchange their borrowings, especially the interest rates, then in that case their interest rate combinedly get lowered. So what are the steps involved into the financial swaps determination? Are three. Step number one, you have to find out what is the combined cost without swap. Step number two, if they go for swap, what is the combined cost? So without swap cost, with swap cost, you have to count, take the difference of the two, it is the value of the swap. If with swap, cost is cheaper than the without swap, then only there is a financial swap possible. If it is not cheaper, then in that case it is not possible. So we have to first find out financial swap is possible or not by using these two steps, and then deducting using the third step also. 3 steps will be set. Once financial swap has already been determined, then after that next step will be showing the flow chart or whatever the exchange aspects are there. In the flow chart, since you have already calculated, now question is, benefit is there, but how the distribution of benefit, distribution of gain is going to take place. In absence of any kind of indicated distribution pattern, you have to distribute it equally between two parties. Whatever gain will be there, gain has to be distributed equally, right? And if it is already instructed that how the gain has to be distributed, it could be different to different party. Accordingly, you have to distribute your whatever gain is there among the parties. And we found here in our example that gain was 2%, and in absence of any of the information, that gain has to be distributed 1% each to both the parties. Then we introduced, there is another important component, and that is called swap banks, who are playing the role of facilitator, aggregator, where both the parties not knowing each other can come to bank. A bank can provide service by charging some percentage out of that swap deals. Here in our example, whatever benefit is there, 20% of the benefit is charged by the swap banks. Means out of 2%, 4.4% will be charged by the swap banks. Remaining whatever the gain is there will be distributed equally among the two parties, between two parties. And once it has been distributed, you have to show the flow chart where banks, the intermediary will always be in the middle of the flow chart. A, B and middle C will be there, that Citibank, and that flow has to be set. Now when you are making the flow chart, you have to be very careful that this flow chart should be correct, and whatever the gain is there should be visible. Whatever the cost has to be there, that should be shown, and that as per calculation, post swap cost should be visible there. So this is the way your financial swap should get originated. It should be used. Now, one more last point associated to it. It says that I have shown the absolute advantage condition. In the absolute advantage condition, what happens? Both the party has got advantage into their respective market. Respective market means, if you look into, A has advantage in US market, B has advantage in Indian market. How we are able to be Indian market? In Indian market, B is able to borrow at 9%, whereas A is borrow at 10%. So इंडियन मार्केट में बी को एडवांटेज है 1% का, यूएस मार्केट में ए को एडवांटेज है 1% का, और दोनों ने रिस्पेक्टिव मार्केट में एडवांटेज पिक किया, इसीलिए 2% का एडवांटेज मिल गया. क्लियर? ये सॉल्यूशन अभी हमने निकाला. अब मैं सेकेंड केस पे आ रहा हूं, जिस केस में एक पार्टी को एडवांटेज है, दूसरे पार्टी को एडवांटेज नहीं है. For example, A is borrowing. Now I'll be simply rubbing and showing you, but you have to prepare a separate flow chart completely. A has got 10% in Indian market. A has got 4% in US market. B also has got 10% in Indian market. Okay. And 5% in US market. Clear? Now, what will be the condition? We have to first step, what is there? First step, what is going to be there? Total cost with swap or without swap? Without swap. Do it without swap, total cost 15%. Because without swap position I am not changing. Okay. Now what is the second step? Total cost with swap. With swap how much is going to be there? 4% will be for A and 10 is going to be here 14%. Is there a benefit? 1% benefit is there. 15% minus 14% is 1% benefit. Is swap is possible? Answer is yes, swap is possible. 0.5 will be available to both. Is it clear? 0.5 is available to party A, 0.5 will be available to party B. Both is going to be possible. क्लियर? देखिए गौर से, ए को रिलेटिव एडवांटेज है, ए को दोनों जगह एडवांटेज है. क्लियर? ए को दोनों जगह एडवांटेज है. ए को यहां भी ए जितना बी बोरो कर सकता है. ऐसा क्यों हो सकता है? होता है, माइंडसेट होता है. एन इंडियन कंपनी हु इज इन इंडिया बोरोइंग इन इंडिया स्टिल नॉट हैविंग दैट क्रेडिट वर्दीनेस, and a foreign company, multinational company have got good credit score, can borrow even in India at the same rate what Indian can borrow. Practically possible. And that is what it has to be used. कभी कभी तो ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि इंडियन कंपनी को इंडिया में कॉस्टली मिलेगा और फॉरेन कंपनी को सस्ता मिल जाएगा. अब IBM बोरो करेगा, जी बोरो करेगा तो मालूम हुआ हर बैंक देने को तैयार है, भाई ले लो. That could be very much possible. Is it clear? And that advantage, disadvantage has to be counted. So ultimately, at this academic point of view, for understanding the subject, it is immaterial what is the rate. If this benefit is going to come, that benefit is going to be, this is what called spread or swap gain. Swap gain is there. And in our second condition 1% swap gain is there, half of will be distributed between two parties. अगर 0.1 का भी गेन होता है, ध्यान दीजिएगा, 1 तो बहुत बड़ा अमाउंट है. अगर 0.1 का भी गेन होता है और 0.1 का गेन में अगर दोनों को हाफ हाफ बांट दो 0.05 और बेस अमाउंट ऑलवेज हंड्रेड्स ऑफ मिलियंस होगा तो एक बड़ा अमाउंट बन के निकल के आता है. एंड सेकेंड इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट, इट इज वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट इंटरेस्ट विच एवरी फ्रीक्वेंट यू आर गोइंग टू हैव. थिंक ऑफ है 0.05% गेन on 1,000 million or 100 million of the amount, and that also, let's say loan is for 20 years. Every year you are going to gain. So financial swap is going to be really very big gain for a party. 0.05 भी बहुत बड़ा अमाउंट होता है, राइट ये तो यहाँ बड़ा बड़ा अमाउंट एग्जामिनेशन के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से, कैलकुलेशन के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से आपको बड़ा सा इंप्रेसिव बना के दिखाया जा रहा है. Not necessary. Not necessary. Bank can decide the way it could be. It could be charged to one, no to second party. But ultimately, benefit has to be distributed in the proportionate way. Pardon? There is no partiality. It is profession. The established is not partiality. It is basically a matter of negotiation. Who is going to get how much is the negotiation? That's a very important part. So understanding finance partiality नहीं होता है. It is basically matter of volume. ठीक है, वो डिपेंड करता है कि आपका, मेरे लिए बहुत आसान हो गया, मैं किसी को 0.1% चीपर लोन दे सकता हूँ, 0.2% चीपर दे सकता हूँ. मैं अगर कुछ, मेरे लिए एक पार्टी आया जो एक साइडेड पार्टी है, मैंने दूसरे पार्टी को क्रिएट किया ज़बरदस्ती, क्रिएशन वाले पार्टी को थोड़ा एक्सक्यूज़ कर दिया कि चलो तुम चार्ज मत दो, मेरी गेन इधर से आ गई. Generally, these swap banks has to be present in both the environment, because that whatever to some extent we have discussed, it is not that simple also, dear. More complexities are yet to be unfolded. Right? It has to be there. It has to be created in that way. इतना आसानी से भी काम नहीं होता है. जितनी आसानी से बता रहे, इतना आसानी से काम आपके एग्जाम में हो जाएगा, राइट लेकिन एग्जाम तो रियल लाइफ की कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी अगर आप बात करेंगे तो अभी तो मैंने आपको करेंसी का नोशन ही नहीं बताया. किसी को कुछ क्वांटम ऑफ करेंसी चाहिए, एक को यूएसडी में चाहिए, दूसरे को आईएनआर में चाहिए, किसी को कुछ और में चाहिए. अभी वो कहाँ आएगा, उसको कहाँ रखेंगे, किस प्लेस पे रखेंगे. सेकेंड इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट है, फ्लोटिंग होगा, फिक्स होगा. एक का रेट फ्लक्चुएट करता जा रहा है, दूसरे का रेट फिक्स्ड है. थर्ड इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट, बैंक को अगर दो करेंसी में एक्सपोजर है और बैंक अपनी होल्डिंग बनाएगा तो किस करेंसी में होल्डिंग बनाएगा. अभी ये सब बातें आनी हैं, ठीक है. लेकिन शुरू में ही कॉम्प्लेक्स नहीं करेंगे ना, वरना तो ऐसे ही क्लास अटेंडेंस है, हाँ देख रहे हैं, तो शुरू में ही अगर कॉम्प्लेक्स कर देंगे तो बाद में मालूम है अगले बैच में फाइनेंस ही नहीं लोग लेंगे, छोड़ देंगे, बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्स है. सबको बड़ा बड़ा सैलरी का जीरो अच्छा लगता है जी, कितने डिजिट में है, लेकिन डिजिट बढ़ाने के लिए जो डिजिट लर्न करना पड़ता है उस पर थोड़ा पीछे रह जाते हैं. जब ज़्यादा कॉम्प्लेक्स डिजिट लर्न करोगे तभी तो आपका एक्सपेंशन आपका सैलरी में भी होगा. सीधी सी बात है, इतना आसानी से नहीं होता है, राइट. तो अब मंथली अगर 6 डिजिट में और 7 डिजिट में चाहिए, 7 डिजिट तो खैर बहुत उस ऊंची बात हो जाती है मंथली के लिए, ठीक है. लेकिन ऐसा तो नहीं है कि लेने वाले नहीं हैं, लेते हैं. तो फिर 7 डिजिट में अगर मंथली सैलरी चाहिए, आपको टेक होम चाहिए, तो फिर उस तरह का 7 डिजिट तक आप बोल, तब 9 डिजिट 10 डिजिट तक के फिगर को आप ऐसे खेलिए जैसे कि आप ABCD कर रहे हो, 1 2 3 4 कर रहे हैं, तभी तो वो डिजिट आपके पास आएगा. ये सिंपल सा लर्निंग का फंडा है. एनीवे, कम टू द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट, हाउ इट इज गोइंग टू वर्क. ये जो पूरा का पूरा कैलकुलेशन आपको दिखाया मैंने, वी कैन मेक ए फ्लोटिंग रेट ऑल्सो. सो बिफोर गोइंग टू ऑल दिस, लेट्स कम टू लिटिल थ्योरी. Deliberately I had not started mere with the theory, because I thought first let's have a numerical calculation, give some time for settlement in between. I'll talk theory and again I'll come back to numerical, a little more complex numerical, complex calculation, right. So financial swaps, when we started working into that, theoretically says why swaps will be needed. I hope the very numerical example has indicated why swaps are required. Cost sensitivity is the most economic rational exercise in the world. Lowering the cost is the economic rational exercise, and especially when you are borrowing, then in that case that is going to be used for a longer period of time. So what happens when financial swaps are there? A wider and most widely used financial swap is that called interest rate swaps. Interest rate swaps is the most used product. And the example which I was quoting, the numerical which we were framing and solving, were actually the simple example of interest rate swaps. It was interest rate swaps, most widely used. It could be used in the domestic market also. Though primarily financial swaps is normally perceived to be for global market, for international, multinational markets, but it can be framed, it can be designed, it can be applied in domestic market as well, between two parties. There is another product called currency swaps. Actually, currency swap is also interest rate swaps. Rather, interest rate swaps plus currency in the beginning and at the end, two exchanges are taking place, that makes it currency swaps. So currency swap is not something different, not something big. Currency swap is primarily interest rate swaps. When we started with the interest rate swaps, there has been a notional amount. Whatever amount has been there, it was a notional amount, equivalent amount. If suppose American company in India interested in India wants some Indian rupee, and let's say suppose he or see whatever company is there, A is interested to have say 8,000 or let's say 80 million rupees, and here B wants in USA is 1 million rupee, and equivalence is 80 rupees to $1. Both are same. So 80 million, let's say B wants 1 million USD and A wants 82 million or 83 million rupee. And exchange rate is 83. So both are equivalent. Whatever the transactions is going to be there, it is equivalent. So you don't require to exchange the currency, now it is going to be a currency swaps. What practically it means is that B, the Bharatiya company interested in investing in USA, needs $1 million, but that $1 million will be borrowed by A in USA for B and handed over $1 million to B. Similarly, B will be borrowing in India 83 million rupees and hand over it to A. Now question is, the moment we are talking about exchange rate, current existing exchange rate and equivalence of the currency, then it doesn't matter whether they exchange or don't exchange. They can exchange on their own also. When 83 million rupees is borrowed by B, if otherwise also you exchange, you will get $1 million. Similarly, if A is going to have $1 million and you change it, it will become 83 million rupees. That is simple, that can easily be done. But question arises here, very important question. In the currency market, that these exchange when you have already made, rate has been fixed to fixed. This is a case which example I am trying to make it is fixed to fixed exchange rate and fixed to fixed interest rate. So one is also asking in fixed rate, another is also asking in fixed rate. There is no fixed floating or floating fixed. That is not that example yet I have not started. So fixed to fixed rate is there, but exchange rate is not fixed. Let's say this tenure is for 5 years and every quarter the payment has to be made, means 5 into 4, 20 quarter payment has to be made. And in 20 quarter, every quarter when you are going to pay, your exchange is going to be now different. Exchange is going to be different. Why it is going to be different? Because borrowing has been there 83 million rupees by B at a particular interest rate. So interest amount is, say at Indian market, 10% is the rate at which it has been borrowed. So 83 million means 8.3 million per annum is going to be interest charge. Time being used, forget about quarterly, let's use annual one. Easy to understand. 8.3 million rupees is the interest has to be paid at the year end. Who will be paying that interest? In market, B has to pay that interest. But B has to receive this interest from where? A. And suppose A has to pay in what? Dollar. And in that time, suppose 83 has moved to 84 or 85. Am I clear? Vice versa, or 82. Will it be the same amount? It will be crossing? No. Interest will be again. So interest rate burden, it may become a burden or it may be a gain also. It may be a gain. Am I clear? Because 8.3 million is fine and here interest is there. In dollar interest also has to be paid. So two ways are there. Either you convert your rupees and then pay dollar interest, or somewhere some exchange has to be borne. So now question arises, when two different currency is there by two different parties, who will bear the exchange rate during that period? There could be third part also. What is the third part? Third part says that why not bankers should bear the interest rate, your exchange burden. Whatever exchange fluctuations and financial risk arising because of exchange fluctuation, banks should bear. What the C will keep on doing? C will also do. Okay, fine dear, don't worry, you have borrowed from market in USD, you keep on paying interest in USD. You borrowed in INR, keep on paying in INR, I will take care of both the parties and whatever exchange gain or loss is going to be their mine. Is it clear? That could be there. So think of a complete table when you will make for the banker out of financial swaps. So what the banker's column will be there? There will be dates. Every quarter, as I was saying that every quarter, and if it is 5 years, then 20 rows will get ready. Plus 2 means currency swaps. First date of origin, then there will be exchange of currency. Then every 3 months there will be interest exchange. Is it clear or not? And once at the last date, when final closure of the account will be there, on that date, two rows with the same date will be coming up. Last date interest settlement will take place. And last date currency re-exchange will take place. Amount has to be returned, refund. Principal amount has to be returned. Because normally in the corporate world what happens? It is not EMI, it is not EQI, it is not EHI. What is that? What is EMI? EMI is when you are paying your installment which contains both principal and interest. Whereas in the case of corporate, it is only interest keep on going, principal is outstanding. It may come at the end, bullet repayment. Clear? Bigger amount will in one chunk will come back. So that date will also be there. If it is a 20 years and quarterly, then means 80 rows will be there well established 80 rows will be coming up, and every 80 rows, every time exchange is going to be the factor, and exchange is going to be factor, then banker has to make sure that what is going to be there. So how the column will be there? First will be date, then second will be, three part will be for one party. I am talking about bank's book. Okay, first will be for dates, second will be say party A, received from A, clear, paid to A, net effect to A, received from B, paid to B, net effect to B, and net effect, final net effect in the book of bank, gain and losses. So effectively, you have to have a multi-column exercise in the book of banks. Similarly, party will also be there. How party will be maintaining the book? Party will be, now it is halfway. A doesn't know B. That is what the beauty of C is. A doesn't know B. A knows only C. A has arranged, this entire exercise has been arranged between A and C. This entire exercise has been arranged between B and C. So B doesn't know A doesn't know B. That is the role of intermediary. A goes to Citibank, takes the financial swaps, deal is between A and Citibank. B goes to Citibank, takes the deal, so deal is between C and B. A and B doesn't know each other. And that's why that deal is going to take place. That's the way it is made. Right. So what happens when it is going to be there? A will be maintaining, so dates, then A receives, A pays, and net effect to A. A net effect will be hardly any. It's only received and paid will be there, whatever charges. Because you look into A is borrowing from the market, so A is actually receiving and paying with C. And on a particular dates it will continue. That is what the financial swap is going to take place. Right. Next is, so currency swap is taken care in that way. There could be a very important product, recent modern product, not to that extent active yet in the Indian market and so many emerging economies, and that is called CDS. Credit default swaps. Very important product. Okay. What is credit default? What is credit? Lending. Credit is lending. When a financial institution lends to others, it is credit. So, every bank by nature of operation have to lend the amount. That is their business. This is the activity. And there is a fair possibility that some of the borrowers will not pay back. Right. Some of borrowers will not pay back, they will default. So there is a possibility of credit default. That is what non-performing assets get created. Now one thing is that gross non-performing assets provisioning has to be made, and that provisioning ultimately take care of that. Some of the default will be there, and in operation in the book itself you adjust it. But suppose you have to hedge it also. How hedging will take place? The institution who are lending, they can go for financial swaps based on certain amount of the charges, and what that amount of charges they have to pay on continuous basis, which has got a particular cap. Okay. So till the time default is not taking place, it becomes a cost to the financial institution. But the moment default takes place, the credit default swaps buyers will start paying to the financial institution and there is a compensations. That care is going to take place. So throughout that arrangement, it keeps on managing that how it is going to work. How it is going to work means, first the swap buyer, means financial institution, will keep on paying certain amount in the name of swap charges. A percentage will be there. And after that, when there is a default, that default case, the party who were enjoying that has protected it will keep on paying back. All right. That's the way it keeps on working. It's a very complex issue. Generally, it is arranged between these two parties, and both the parties are financial institutions. Even there is a concept of caps and collars. Caps and collars are also there, where there has been cap set. But all these products which we are talking is OTC in nature, over the counter in nature. It is not exchange traded product. And how it is going to work is, what is cap? Cap means upper limit. I'll give you a very simple arrangement related to this interest rate itself. Generally applicable caps and collars into the floating environment. We all have the exposure in the floating environment, like you borrow for your housing loan or some loan related to floating rates. So what happens, suppose right now rate is 8%, floating is charged 8%. You borrow it, and after that what happens, you take a cap on 9% or 9.5%. Say at a 9.5% cap you are taking, and price of cap is 0.25%. Price of cap is 0.25%, 25 basis point. So what will happen, when you are borrowing at 8%, you will pay 8% to the lender. जिस बैंक से बोरो किया उसको 8% दोगे आप, और 0.25% आप उसको दोगे जिससे आपने कैप खरीदा है. हो सकता है सेम फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशन हो, आपने बोरो किया है से HSBC से और कैप भी HSBC से ही बोरो कर लिया, 8.25 आप देंगे. आपका कॉस्ट क्या हो गया, 8% टू लेंडर, 0.25 टू कैप सेलर. आपका रेट फ्लोटिंग रेट है, अपवर्ड पॉइंट है, रेट बढ़ के 8.5 हो गया. अब आपको 8.5 पे करना है फ्लोटिंग चार्ज एंड 0.25 पे करना है कैप चार्ज. फिर और बढ़ गया, 9% हो गया. 9% होने का मतलब क्या हो गया, आपको 9% पे करना है और 0.25 पे करना है. ऐसे करते करते 9.5 तक चला गया. अब 9.5 पे क्या करना है, आपने 9.5 पे कैप खरीदा है तो आपको 9.5 पे करना पड़ेगा और 0.25 पे करना पड़ेगा. लेकिन जैसा ही 9.5 से ऊपर गया रेट, 9.5 से रेट सपोज करो आपका 9.75 हो गया. अब 9.75 रेट हो गया तो आप 9.5 आप पे करोगे, क्योंकि कैप आपका 9.5 पे है. 0.25 आप पे करोगे जिससे पार्टी से आपने लिया है, और 0.25 जो इंटरेस्ट का पोर्शन है वो पे करेगा. क्लियर. रेट सपोज करो और बढ़ गया, 10% हो गया. अब 10% हो गया तो आप 9.5 पे करोगे, 0.25 कैप पे करोगे, और 0.5% जो ऊपर बढ़ा है अब वो कैप वाला पे करेगा. तो आपका कैप हो गया 9.5 पे जाके, और जो कैप का रेट है आपको अप्लाई हो गया. दिस इज कैप, वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग प्रोडक्ट इन द फाइनेंशियल मार्केट. इवन ये भी ट्रेड होता है अमॉन्ग दैट क्लोज डील. धीरे धीरे इंडियन मार्केट ऑल्सो गेटिंग मोमेंटम फॉर ऑल दीज प्रोडक्ट्स. दे आर ऑल्सो गेटिंग यूज्ड टू. और इसी को हम लोग कहते हैं फाइनेंशियल प्रोडक्ट्स. जो हमारा फाइनेंशियल मार्केट है वो इनलार्ज्ड हो रहा है, बड़ा हो रहा है. कई तरह के प्रोडक्ट हैं जो मार्केट में आ रहे हैं, मार्केट में फैल रहे हैं. Though still lot of products which are globally available, either we don't have or we don't have volume of the transaction into that product. या तो है ही नहीं प्रोडक्ट हमारे मार्केट में। तो किसी भी फाइनेंशियल प्रोडक्ट के लिए, लॉन्च के लिए कम से कम 2 स्टेज चाहिए और एक्टिव मार्केट के लिए 3 स्टेज चाहिए। पहला स्टेज जो मार्केट का होता है, जो लॉन्च के लिए, रेगुलेटर शुड अलाउ इट, दैट्स द फर्स्ट स्टेज। रेगुलेटर का मतलब 99.99% टाइम क्या होता है कि वो प्रोडक्ट जो है वो किसी न किसी पार्लियामेंट्री बिल के थ्रू, एक्ट के थ्रू आता है, जो रेगुलेटर फिर उसको इम्प्लीमेंट करता है। कुछ ऐसे प्रोडक्ट हो सकते हैं जो डायरेक्ट रेगुलेटर लॉन्च करता है, जो सिर्फ डेविएशन है, थोड़ा डेविएशन है, मींस पार्लियामेंट में एक ब्रॉड बिल पास है जिसमें कई ऑप्शंस खुले हुए हैं, लेकिन आपने सारे ऑप्शंस का प्रोडक्ट नहीं लाया, बाद में मैच्योर हुए तो और ऑप्शंस का प्रोडक्ट आपने ला दिया, तो पार्लियामेंट जाने की जरूरत नहीं है, वो रेगुलेटर ला देगा। जैसे मॉनेटरी मार्केट का प्रोडक्ट अगर है तो मॉनेटरी मार्केट के प्रोडक्ट में आरबीआई रेगुलेटर है, अगर कॉर्पोरेट से रिलेटेड प्रोडक्ट है तो कंपनी है, स्टॉक एक्सचेंजेस वगैरह से रिलेटेड प्रोडक्ट है तो सेबी है, ये सब लाके आपको प्रोडक्ट दे देगा। दैट्स द फर्स्ट। जब प्रोडक्ट लॉन्च हो जाता है, रेगुलेटर अलाउ करता है, तो सेकंड स्टेज होता है प्रोडक्ट, मतलब पहला स्टेज हो गया परमिशन, दूसरा स्टेज हुआ प्रोडक्ट लॉन्च। परमिशन देने का कतई मतलब नहीं है रेगुलेटर लॉन्च करेगा, लॉन्च तो कोई ना कोई तो प्लेयर करेगा, प्लेयर लॉन्च करेगा। और जब प्लेयर लॉन्च करता है तो प्लेयर क्या, क्रेडिट डिफॉल्ट स्वैप है, परमिशन है, लेकिन कोई ना कोई क्रेडिट डिफॉल्ट स्वैप्स तो स्टार्ट करना चाहिए ना, करेगा। दैट इज द सेकेंड स्टेज, तब लॉन्च होता है, किसी ने अपना प्रोडक्ट लाया। एंड थर्ड स्टेज तब होता है जब एवरीबडी स्टार्ट्स यूजिंग इट, तो मार्केट में मोमेंटम आता है, मार्केट में ट्रांजैक्शन होता है। लॉन्च होने के बाद भी जरूरी नहीं है उसमें वॉल्यूम आ जाए, वॉल्यूम तब आएगा जब प्लेयर्स उसमें इंगेज हो, इंगेज होना भी जरूरी होता है। तो यहाँ पे अभी जो फाइनेंशियल स्वैप्स का मार्केट है, इंडिया में काफ़ी एक्टिवली मार्केट है फाइनेंशियल स्वैप्स का, एंड बिग प्रोजेक्ट फाइनेंसिंग में फाइनेंशियल स्वैप्स रन करता है, कॉर्पोरेट्स यूज़ करते हैं, बट इट्स नॉट अ एक्सचेंज ट्रेडेड प्रोडक्ट। क्लियर? तो अब मैं आपको थोड़ा सा पीपीटी से theoretical concepts इसका देके, and that will become confining and completing the entire exercise. कॉल कर लीजिए उनको एक बार, बुला लीजिए। एक बार बुला लेंगे आप उनको। इसको थोड़ा ऑन कीजिएगा. So just now we have to have the theoretical scroll up related to what it has been discussed here. So look, swaps, it's a contract between two parties to deliver one sum of money against another sum of money at periodic interval. Obviously the sums exchanged should be different, amounts wise, currency wise. Two payments are the legs or sides of the swaps. Usually one leg is fixed, one leg is floating, but that not necessary, because deliberately I have shown you fixed versus fixed. Examples has already been discussed, so we don't require to further revisit these examples. We have already done the calculation. Fixed versus variable or fixed versus fixed. Variable versus variable also could be possible. Normally there was a time where LIBOR rate were very active in the market, and most of the floating rate were used in terms of LIBOR. LIBOR stands here London Interbank Offer Rate, but because of certain reasons LIBOR has been now suspended. A very all-time, very respectable interest rate. I think the moment floating rate used to come, LIBOR was the first choice. There were the 15 varieties of LIBORs, but what happened in 2000, I think 10, 11 approximately, there had been a scam related to LIBOR, globally respected exchange rate, and that got rigged by some of the bankers. So disrespect got generated against that, confidence got lost, faith got lost, and finally by 2022 it was over and out. No one is preferring as a benchmark rate as the LIBOR rate. The other rates, interbank offer rates, are also there. Even in India, MIBOR is there, Mumbai Interbank Offer Rates. How these rates are basically between two banks, one is lending, another is borrowing, how the rates are there, how rates are changing, what is the impact of those rates. We had another rate in India, and that is called PLR. PLR stands for prime lending rate. Unfortunately, that rate also got abused, and when abusement was too high, ultimately had to get suspended. So PLR is also over. Especially globally, PLR got abused to that extent that it became one of the root cause of global crisis in 2007-8. Financial crisis had been because of the abusement of this prime lending, and that's why that crisis was called as subprime crisis. It was not prime. It was not prime lending. Next to that, we can have right now, if you ask me that which rate should be used as a best proxy, floating rate in India or anywhere, it's basically yield on treasury bill. So yield on treasury bill can be used. We can take it as a reference, and we all understand it is keep on changing on a daily basis. When floating is there on the daily basis, so how the liability is going to get decided? So every time liability is going to get decided depending upon what kind of flow is there. Suppose half yearly flow is there. Every 6 months you have to pay interest. Then what will happen? You will have to pay, say your interest payment is on 30th June and 31st December. That's the way. Last of the half year. Right? So 30th June, if you have to make a payment, you made your payment on, next payment will be due on, and it is a floating rate, next payment will be due on 31st December. So what will be the interest rate? Computing the interest burden for that next 6 months will get decided on 2nd of the July plus 2 days. A reset date. What is the term used is reset date. So on 2nd July, the rate prevailing for that your base, say 91-day treasury bill, whatever the yield on 91-day treasury bill, or in older period whatever LIBOR rate were there, that base is to be used. Suppose your exchange rate initially had been LIBOR plus 2%, then whatever the LIBOR rate is there on 2nd July, that rate will be taken. Say 2nd July LIBOR rate is going to be 3.8. So 3.8 plus 2%, 5.8. Now on next coming 31st December, the interest for 6 months you will be paying is fixed at 5.8% per annum. The moment you paid on 31st December, again on 2nd January, you will have to have a reset date, and that reset date will decide about on next 30th June, whatever you are going to pay. On that day, suppose rate has LIBOR rate has moved from 3.8 to 4%. So now 4 plus 2, 6% rate is going to be applicable for your 30th June. That's the way floating rate is used. So a floating rate doesn't mean that suddenly you are not aware of what is there. At least whatever your payment frequency is there, one payment frequency in advance, you are knowing that what is going to be rate applicable to you. Had it been quarterly, it is another 3 months of time, whatever the rate is prevailing, that is going to get applicable. That's the way it is used. Reset date is specified, generally the last payment day plus 2. Okay, that's the way it is used. Types, I had already mentioned you interest rate swaps, we have seen equities, currency swaps, equity swaps, commodity swaps, credit default swaps. Okay, that is other pay if default occurs. I have already given you example that other parties payment will be activated only when default has taken place. Okay. Then similarly, most common swaps is fixed for floating interest rate swaps. Payments are based on hypothetical quantities or notional quantities, that is equivalence. The way I had taken $1 million versus 83 million rupees. Notional is there because exchange rate is assumed to be 83, and it is that equivalence is going to get created. Similarly, payments are based on hypothetical quantities, notional amount, fixed rate is called swap coupon. Usually only the interest differential needs to be exchanged. That is a very interesting part. Interest, that is what I was trying to show you, that if 4% you have already paid, only you pay 5% or 5.2%, your amount is already paid. So it is not that entire amount, but I also saw you that for academic purpose, for showing in the examination, if you take the complete amount also out and then you balance it, that is also, no one can say that it is wrong, at least in flow chart. Okay, net effect आप खुद निकाल लो. 4% हम आपको दे रहे हैं, आप मुझे 9.2 दे रहे हो, तो effectively मेरा 5.2 हो गया. Is it clear? लेकिन आप कहोगे भाई क्यों आप 2 बार ट्रांजेक्शन करवा रहे हो? याद कीजिए, हमने कैश मैनेजमेंट में बताया आपको ट्रांजैक्शन कॉस्ट होता है, अगर उस पर चार्ज लगेगा तो 5% देने का चार्ज लगेगा. ऐसे इंटरेस्ट में नॉर्मली चार्ज होता नहीं है, लेकिन फंड ट्रांसफ़र होता है तब चार्ज लग जाता है, ट्रांजैक्शन फी लग जाता है, तो और इंटरनेशनल होता है, तो इसलिए नेट इफेक्ट पे काउंट करते हैं, तो इसलिए वो नेट कह रहा है. यूजुअली वन ऑफ द पार्टीज इज ए स्वैप डीलर, ऑल्सो कॉल्ड स्वैप बैंक्स, लार्ज फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशंस. Why large we are talking? Because by definition they have to be multinational. If swap transaction is global in nature, international in nature, तो वही बीच में बिचौलिया बनेगा ना जो दोनों जगह प्रेजेंट रहेगा. Are you getting me? वैसा कोई बैंक नहीं हो सकता जो आपके राजस्थान में प्रेजेंट तो है लेकिन उधर दूर कहीं फ्रांस में प्रेजेंट नहीं है, तो आप डील कैसे करवाओगे? डील करवाने के लिए और प्रेजेंस ही नहीं, आप पर फेथ भी होना चाहिए, आप अप्रोचेबल होने चाहिए। इसीलिए मेरे एग्जाम्पल में सी कौन था? सिटी बैंक, जो यूएसए में है, इंडिया में भी है, इंडिया में भी है। HSBC एग्जाम्पल होता है, ING एग्जाम्पल होता है। तो ये लोग क्या करते हैं, ये लोग हर जगह प्रेजेंट हैं, इनकी डील अच्छी होती है। एग्जाम्पल आई एम जस्ट पासिंग बिकॉज यहाँ पे इसने क्या किया है, थोड़ा सा सिर्फ लिबॉर के कारण, लंदन इंटरबैंक ऑफर रेट के कारण, इलिस्ट्रेशन ये थोड़ा पुराना है। तो लिबॉर का ऐसे अभी भी इंटरनेशनली तो लिबॉर यूज तो हो ही रहा है, डिफरेंस यही है कि लिबॉर पे रिस्पेक्ट खत्म हो गया है, बेंचमार्किंग खत्म हो गई है। मैं आपको, जब डिस्टॉर्ट हो सकता है, जब उसको कोई मैनिपुलेट कर सकता है, तो हम उस पर क्यों बिलीव करें? ये बातें हो गई हैं। तो 6 मंथ्स लिबॉर, तो बैंक के 8%, स्वैप डीलर ये हाफ क्यों दिखा रहा है? स्वैप डीलर कौन हो गया? स्वैप डीलर बैंक हो गया, और ये दूसरा बैंक है। एवरी 6 मंथ्स बैंक के फिक्स्ड रेट पेयर पेज 100 मिलियन इंटू वॉट एवर द रेट इज देयर, 6 मंथ्स है तो उसका हाफ हो जाएगा। एवरी 6 मंथ स्वैप डीलर उसको रिटर्न में क्या करेगा? जो वॉट एवर लिबॉर रेट होगा, अब लिबॉर रेट स्पेसिफाइड या नहीं है, 6 मंथ्स का लिबॉर रेट होगा, उसका हाफ कर दोगे, वो पेमेंट होगा। दैट्स अ पेमेंट हैज टू बी मेड। सो अगर सपोज करो जैसे इसने लिया है कि द फ्लोटिंग रेट हैज ऑलरेडी बीन फिक्स्ड इन अप्रैल 7%, तो फिक्स्ड कैसे हो गया अप्रैल में 7%? बिकॉज आपको बताया रीसेट डेट होता है, हर नेक्स्ट पेमेंट के लिए फिक्स्ड हो जाएगा वो, फिर अगला पेमेंट, एक पेमेंट आप करोगे उसके बाद के पेमेंट के लिए फिर फिक्स करना पड़ेगा, एंड दैट्स द वे यू कीप ऑन डूइंग। मोस्ट स्वैप्स आर टेलर मेड, इट्स अ OTC टाइप इन्वायरमेंट। टेलर मेड मतलब जो म्यूचुअली एग्रीड होगा। जैसे मैंने आपको बताया कि जरूरी नहीं है कि प्रॉफिट कंपल्सरली हैज टू बी इक्वल डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड, प्रॉफिट में भी डिफरेंट, one can take 70% and another can take only 30%, that could be possible, but there has to be reason। कोई 70% क्यों लेगा और 30% क्यों लेगा, वो मार्केट के उस कॉन्ट्रैक्ट सिचुएशन पे डिपेंड करता है, किसका कितना ज़्यादा से है, एंड दैट डिसाइड अबाउट। अदरवाइज इन एब्सेंसिया क्या करते हैं हम लोग? 50-50 कर देते हैं, 50-50 डिस्ट्रीब्यूट हो जाएगा। Swaps trades in OTC type environment. Swap specialists fill the role of the broker and or market maker. Brokers, market makers are usually large banks. Prices are quoted with respect to a standard or generic swaps. All in cost price of swaps, it is quoted on a semi-annual basis. Absolute label is 9% fixed. ये सब खैर आपके स्पेसिफिक होते हैं लिबॉर फ्लैट पे, क्योंकि ये सिर्फ मान के चल रहा है कि फिक्स्ड फ्लोट होता है, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है। फिक्स्ड फ्लोट और फिक्स्ड फ्लोट दोनों हो सकते हैं। अब जैसे यहाँ पे आपको ट्रांजैक्शन दिया हुआ है, BPS स्टैंड्स फॉर बेसिस पॉइंट्स। ये बेसिस पॉइंट्स मीन्स होता है, जैसे 25 बेसिस पॉइंट्स मीन्स 0.25% हो गया, 25 बेसिस पॉइंट मीन्स 0.0025 हो गया। तो जब भी आप देखिएगा कि अगर अदरवाइज भी न्यूज में सुनते होंगे कि जब न्यूज में ये आता है कि RBI ने रेट चेंज किया या किसी ने चेंज किया, क्या होता है कि 25 बेसिस पॉइंट रेट इंक्रीज हो गया। 25 बेसिस पॉइंट मीन्स 0.25%। अगर कोई रेट 6% है तो 6 से 6.25 हो जाएगा, 6.5 है तो 6.75 हो जाएगा। दैट इज व्हाट 0.25 बेसिस पॉइंट। तो ये देखिएगा आपको ईयर वाइज इसने दिखा दिया, और कैसे ही आपका रेट चेंज हो रहा है तो ये दिखा रहा है कि आपका फ्लो कैसे बदल रहा है। तो HB receives, HB pays, how it is going to change. That is what flow is going to be there. तो इस एग्जाम्पल में देखिएगा, द फिक्स रेट पेयर इज सेड टू बी लॉन्ग और टू हैव बॉट द स्वैप्स। हाउसमैन बैंक्स इंडिकेटिव स्वैप प्राइसिंग स्केड्यूल। सो आपको ईयर वाइज दे दिया है, तो जो रिसीव कर रहा है और पे कर रहा है, और इस दोनों के रिसीव पेमेंट में आप देखिएगा एक डिफरेंस क्रिएट हो रहा है, एंड दैट डिफरेंस इज गोइंग टू बी कंसीडर्ड हेयर। ओके, हर जगह एक एग्जाम्पल आपने, इसने कंसीडर द 3rd ईयर स्वैप कोर्स, तो हर साल का होगा, इसने एक एग्जाम्पल बीच में 3rd ईयर का ले लिया है। हर बार इसका गेन और लॉस होगा। गेन लॉस के बाद एक और चीज़ है, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट है, दैट इज व्हाट वी हैड बीन टॉकिंग इन इंटरनेशनल फाइनेंस एज वेल, दैट व्हेन यू आर एक्सपोज टू 2 और मोर करेंसीज देन यू हैव टू डिसाइड अबाउट विच करेंसी इज सुटेबल फॉर यू टू मेंटेन इन द योर स्टॉक्स और होल्डिंग्स। कहाँ पे आप रखोगे, जिसमें अप्रिसिएशन की पॉसिबिलिटी ज़्यादा है उस करेंसी में आप अपने आप को स्टोर करना शुरू करो। गेन को ट्रांसलेट कर लो अपने आप, गेन पे गेन मिल जाएगा आपको, क्योंकि उसका अप्रिसिएशन होगा। दैट्स द वे you have to consider. Yes, that's a very interesting question has been asked in the down. It says that are swaps riskless? That's a very interesting. Answer is no. क्यों riskless नहीं है? Why it is so? Instead of I should be showing here, why it is so? Why swap is not a riskless one? What could be the reason? Why? क्या क्या पॉसिबिलिटी हो सकता है? स्वैप्स आप समझ चुके हैं, ये थ्योरी तो छोड़ दीजिए, आपने प्रैक्टिकली न्यूमेरिकल के थ्रू पहले समझ लिया। अब क्वेश्चन उठता है कि स्वैप्स क्या रिस्क फ्री है? नो। ऐसे इसने स्टार्ट किया है, default risk is always present, theoretically correct, practically not correct. I don't agree with these slides. Why theoretically correct? Yes, default कोई भी कर सकता है, practically क्यों correct नहीं है? क्या? अरे नहीं, आप सिंपल वाले जो कैलकुलेशन था उस पर सोच के देखो, मैंने कुछ बताया था। A was not knowing B, डिफॉल्ट कौन करेगा? B करेगा। मुझे क्या लेना देना B से, मैं तो अपने बैंक से मतलब रख रहा हूं। वो किस बात का पॉइंट माने 20% प्रॉफिट का ले रहा है? वो जो 0.4 ले रहा है वो इसीलिए तो ले रहा है। अब मान लीजिए हमारे बैंकिंग के साथ क्या होता है कि बैंक में हमने पैसा जमा किया, निकालना है। अब बैंक ने मेरे पैसे को कहाँ आगे इन्वेस्ट किया और उसने पे किया नहीं किया, उससे मुझे लेना देना क्या है? आर यू गेटिंग मी? वो बैंक समझते रहे कि उसका पैसा लेके कोई भाग गया, वो उसका हेडेक है, मुझे तो मेरा पैसा चाहिए। उसी तरीके से लेकिन थ्योरेटिकली तो हो सकता है ना। थ्योरेटिकली कब हो सकता है? जब ये अमाउंट बड़ा हो गया और बैंक ही सरेंडर कर दिया। होता है ना, अभी जैसे है हेयर कट, देयर इज अ वर्ड कॉल हेयर कट। व्हाट इज हेयर कट? हेयर कट इज दैट आप दो, अब आपको कम मिलेगा, है ना। मैं हेयर कट सैलून की बात नहीं कर रहा हूं, इस सैलून को चलाने वाला आरबीआई है ना, जिसको आप लोग कॉमर्शियल डिपार्टमेंट में या कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड में बैड डेट्स पढ़े होंगे। बैड डेट रिकवर्ड, मालूम है 1 रुपया में 70 पैसा ही मिला, तो 30 पैसा तो गया ना। इंटरेस्ट तो छोड़ जाओ, आपका प्रिंसिपल अमाउंट नहीं मिल रहा है पूरा, ठीक है। तो उस हेयर कट की बात कर रहे हैं। तो जो भी लेंडर है, इस पे कई तरह से पॉलिसी होती है। गवर्नमेंट भी अपना कोशिश करता है कि भाई जो डिपॉजिटर है उनके पैसे ना डूबे। डूबता किसका पैसा है? शेयर होल्डर का। जब ऐसा बैंक्रप्सी हो गया तो यहाँ जो डिफॉल्ट है, इसलिए स्टेटमेंट लिखा हुआ है तो गलत नहीं है, लेकिन मोस्ट ऑफ द केसेस में ऐसा नहीं होगा कि बैंक इमीडिएटली आपको पैसा नहीं देगी या आपका केस गड़बड़ हो जाएगा, क्योंकि वो हाफ वे होता है, ओपेक होता है। यू डोंट नो द काउंटर पार्टी, योर काउंटर पार्टी इज ओनली द स्वैप डीलर, सो स्वैप डीलर विल बी। इसीलिए देखोगे ये इस एग्जाम्पल में इसने बार बार हाफ को दिखाया है, और यही कारण है कि मैंने कहा कि इट इज़ नॉट दैट वे। सिमिलरली एक्चुअली जब आपको है, जैसे हाउसमैन एंटर्स इनटू अ 3 year स्वैप विद गॉयको, ओके, 3 years कोट इज गिवन, तो आप ये एग्जाम्पल आपको कोटेशन के बेसिस पे यूज करके कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, और कॉन्ट्रैक्ट तो बड़े बड़े होते हैं क्योंकि प्रोजेक्ट फाइनेंसिंग का एरिया है, और प्रोजेक्ट फाइनेंसिंग के एरिया में कॉन्ट्रैक्ट जब बड़े बड़े होते हैं तो इस तरीके से आपको एक बार जब एंटर करते हैं तो वो सीरीज ऑफ पूरा का पूरा आ जाता है, और शुरू से ही आपको बता दिया जाता है कि कितना आपका पेमेंट फ्लो होगा, कैसे होगा। डीलर्स रिस्क भी है। डीलर्स रिस्क क्या हो गया? डीलर मीन्स दैट बैंक। क्या क्या है इसमें? क्रेडिट रिस्क है, मिसमैच रिस्क है, सॉवरेन रिस्क है। दैट्स अनदर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट है। क्रेडिट रिस्क तो है ही, अगर डीलर क्रेडिट एक्सटेंड करता है तो उसका रिस्क है। मिसमैच रिस्क है, जो एग्जैक्टली मैच नहीं कर रहा है, जिस करेंसी में गया उस दोनों करेंसी में एक्सपोजर हेवी हो गया तो वो मिसमैच हो सकता है। और सॉवरेन रिस्क इसको कहते हैं जब कंट्री रिस्क आ जाता है। कंट्री रिस्क इज अ सॉवरेन रिस्क। अगर कंट्री रिस्क हाई हो गया देन इन दैट केस इट इज गोइंग टू बी वेरी सीरियस। आप अगर मान लीजिए दो कंट्री के बीच में, भी हम लोगों ने इंडिया और यूएस कनाडा के बीच का सीवियर कंडीशन देखा है, इंडिया और कनाडा में कैसे हर चीज़, तो इसका इम्पैक्ट बहुत पड़ता है। प्रोजेक्ट पे इम्पैक्ट पड़ जाता है, उस परफॉर्मेंस पे इम्पैक्ट पड़ जाता है। अगर बिजनेस का इम्पैक्ट इतना हो गया कि ये जो ए और बी हमने यूज़ किया था, ए और बी आया और उसका प्रोजेक्ट फंस गया, एक का प्रोजेक्ट तो निकल गया अच्छे से टाइम पे कंप्लीट हो गया, दूसरे का प्रोजेक्ट फंस गया तो फंस गया ना, फिर तो सॉवरेन रिस्क काफ़ी है। तो हर तरह के रिस्क होते हैं। अब जब प्रोजेक्ट ही नहीं आगे हो रहा है, प्रोडक्टिविटी नहीं हो रहा है, तो इंटरेस्ट नहीं करेगा, तो वहाँ पे डिफॉल्ट की पॉसिबिलिटी ओवरऑल मार्केट में बन जाता है। दैट इज व्हाट इट्स देयर विद रिलेटेड टू डीलर्स रिस्क। अगर कॉमोडिटी डेरिवेटिव्स की बात करेंगे देन वेयर हाउसिंग इज ऑल्सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। हु इज वेयर हाउसिंग, what kind of efficiency or policies are there that has got a warehousing. Market size, leave that, we will be more concerned with the overall, but overall it is looking upon starting from 98 2011 this graph has shown, and it indicates why 2011. After that lot of global issues, global challenges has been there. Banks for International Settlement has indicated these all exercises, BIS, and it will be working accordingly. Right? What it indicates that volume is keep on increasing. Volume is, and all these are in billions. So you look into actually in the global market, trillions of dollar is actually the part of exchange. And in recent phase, it has gone very high. Okay. This is OTC derivatives amount outstanding on December 2014. It has been indicated what are the various interest rate contracts, foreign exchange contracts, equity linked contracts, commodity contracts, credit default swaps, all these are there, and that these are statistics is just for knowledge, not for exam. Okay, these all are just for knowledge. Various exercises are there which you can use with. Now, what is the use? Why swaps are required? First one is manage risk, change profile of cash flows, arbitrage, take advantage of price differences, enter new markets, and create new instruments. These all are there. अगर आपकी बोरोइंग अच्छी नहीं हो पा रही है दूसरे मार्केट में, आप वहाँ के लोकल से पार्टनरशिप करके आप बोरोइंग कर लीजिए, बेनिफिट उठाइए, एंड दैट यू कैन क्रिएट विद. So you can have the advantage of using these markets. Change profile of cash flow also. You are good at fixed borrowing, but you require floating. So you can change your profile of borrowing itself. Fixed को floating में, floating को fixed में convert कर सकते हैं. कई example ऐसे हैं, और मोस्टली ये कहा जाता है कि फिक्स फ्लोटिंग पे ही काम करता है. आर्बिट्राज आपको मिल सकता है. इवन इफ आर्बिट्राज, मैं आई गेव यू द एग्जांपल ऑफ आर्बिट्राज, जब दोनों के दोनों फिक्स्ड में ही बोरो कर रहे हैं तो फिक्स फ्लोटिंग का तो बेनिफिट नहीं ले रहे हैं, लेकिन आर्बिट्राज कैसे ले रहे हैं, सिर्फ एक्सचेंज कर दिया बेनिफिट मिल गया, एक्सचेंज करके बेनिफिट उठा लिया. रिस्कलेस कंडीशन हो गया, अगर अदर रिस्क नहीं है तो रिस्कलेस कंडीशन हो जाएगा. व्हाट इज दैट रिस्कलेस कंडीशन? आप मेरे बदले बोरो करके आप मुझे दे दो, मैं आपके जगह पे बोरो करके दे दूंगा, बेनिफिट उठा लूंगा. That is called arbitrage. So arbitrage could be possible here. और उसमें जैसे क्वेश्चन भी दिया हुआ है कि कैसे जापानीज, एग्जाम्पल है नकातोमी, a Japanese company wants USD debt. There are at least 2 ways to get USD debt. Issue USD debt or issue JPY debt and swap it for USD debt. सेकेंड रूट बेहतर होगा. क्यों? क्योंकि उसमें आपको अल्टीमेटली कॉस्ट रिड्यूस हो जाएगा. तो ये सब चीज़ें हैं, ये आपके स्वैप्स का बेनिफिट है. कॉम्परेटिव एडवांटेज, क्वालिटी स्प्रेड डिफरेंशियल QSD की बात हम लोग कर चुके हैं, और ये सब जो अब आपका जो आया है from here onward, I have already explained you in a different A and B techniques, American company versus Bharatiya company, and what kind of benefit has been there, like here who needs what and what kind of quality spread is there. That is What are the 3 stages we have already discussed? Stage number 1, you have to calculate without swap. Stage number 2, calculate with swap. Stage number 3, look into differentials. Once differential has been there, if it gain is there, just show the flow charts. That's it. And swaps deal will be made. So I am stopping here, and rest you can keep on dealing. This is the flow. मैंने थोड़ा सा आपको ऐसे दिखाया था फ्लो. बुक में आप देखिएगा ऐसे लंबे में फ्लो रहेगा आपका, लेकिन ये फ्लो चार्ट बनाना कंपलसरी है आपके एग्जामिनेशन के लिए. ये जो न्यूमेरिकल होगा और एक कंपलसरी क्वेश्चन है, इजी क्वेश्चन है, और इस क्वेश्चन को 5 मिनट में सॉल्व करके आराम से आप अच्छा खासा नंबर उठा सकते हैं. ज़्यादा टफ नहीं है ये. अब ये मेरे ख्याल से देखने में आपको कोई दिक्कत नहीं होगी और कवर कर सकते हैं. मैं इंटरेस्ट रेट स्वैप की ही बात कर रहा था. ओके, राइट. डे काउंट्स वगैरह, यस, दिस डे काउंट्स एंड अदर थिंग्स आई हैव ऑलरेडी डिस्कस्ड यू. और फ्लोटिंग रेट में जैसे आपको बताया डिफरेंट इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स यूज होते हैं, तो आप इसको कवर कर सकते हैं. बहुत से छोटे छोटे एंट्री केसेस हैं. आप कैसे काउंट करोगे, कब आपका रीसेट डेट फिक्स होगा, रीसेट डेट में छुट्टी हो गई तो क्या होगा, ये सब चीज़ें जो हैं ये आप theoretically पढ़ सकते हैं और कवर कर सकते हैं. नाउ आई एम स्टॉपिंग हियर एंड आई एम इनवाइटिंग योर क्वेश्चन इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चन यू हैव. Questions from financial swaps. अभी सिर्फ फाइनेंशियल स्वैप्स का क्वेश्चन. एनी क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम योर साइड? नो क्वेश्चन. इनको बुला लेना, बुला लो इनको. Okay, then in that case I'll give you last few more tips related to these swaps components. अगर theoretical question भी आता है, जैसे what is financial swaps, you can write that related to different underlying. अगर short notes में है, ऐसे 99% chances है आपको कि इसका numerical question ही आएगा, और numerical question भी आपको solve करना है. तो आपको इस क्वेश्चन को इस तरीके से हैंडल करना है कि सारी क्लैरिटी से आप इंफॉर्मेशन दीजिए. क्वेश्चन बहुत सिंपल होगा. क्वेश्चन होगा कि आपके 2 कंपनी का आपको मैट्रिक्स दिया रहेगा. आप ध्यान रखिएगा कि किस कंपनी को कहाँ बोरो करना है और क्या रेट एप्लीकेबल है उसके लिए. बीच में बैंक होगा. बैंक को गेन क्या है परसेंटेज में ध्यान रखिएगा. देयर आर 2 ways टू प्रेजेंट. एक होता है परसेंटेज ऑफ बेनिफिट, दूसरा होता है डायरेक्ट आपको दिया हुआ है बैंक चार्जेस 40 बेसिस पॉइंट BPS. अब 40 बेसिस पॉइंट हो गया, अब 1% हो, 1.5% गेन हो, जो भी हो, बैंक को आप 0.4 दे दो. ठीक है, 40 बेसिस पॉइंट. थर्ड, आपको अगर इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं है तो इक्वल प्रॉफिट डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन करेंगे और दोनों तरफ से गेन दिखाइएगा. जो फ्लो दिखाइएगा वो दोनों तरफ से गेन दिखाइएगा और गेन दिखा के आप कवर कीजिएगा. दिस इज व्हाट यू हैव टू डू, राइट. इसके बाद आगे चेक करते हैं सिलेबस में क्या क्या बचा हुआ है. सफिशिएंट वर्ड इज अ वेरी वाइडर वर्ड. डिपेंड करता है किसका कितना हंगर है. एग्जामिनेशन के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से हो सकता है बुक को तो मैं बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं देख पाया हूँ, लेकिन ये श्योर है कि जो पैटर्न है, जो क्वेश्चन बताया गया है क्लास में, उसी पैटर्न से क्वेश्चन आएगा. लर्निंग के लिए वैरायटी सॉल्व जरूर कीजिए. और आज भी बहुत से ऑथर हैं, लेकिन अभी भी मेरी नज़र में जॉन सी हल जो हैं उनके सामने कोई दूसरा बुक नहीं है. हाँ, जॉन सी हल को आप यूज़ कीजिए, क्वेश्चन सॉल्व कीजिए आप वहाँ से, वो ज़्यादा अच्छा रहेगा. और सॉफ्ट कॉपी ऑफ बुक सबके पास है, तो इसलिए कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. कुछ चैप्टर सॉल्व कीजिए, उससे हो जाएगा, कवर हो जाएगा। ओके, क्या ये पीपीटी तो शेयर कर देंगे, इसके लिए कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। ये पीपीटी ऐसे भी मेरी नहीं है।